powerful nation. Some think he is a myth. Some believe he is the chosen one, who will bring balance to a world at war. And some will stop at nothing to destroy him.
So we're going to deal with the writ of discovery and disclosure, and we're going to deal with concept points. This is the main writ that shut down Citibank, the banks with foreclosures, and they're trying to start them back up again. They're trying to start them back up again because the economy will collapse, but it's still corrupt. They're starting it up again from closing because the economy is collapsing. Nevertheless, it's a fraud, and that's the major thing. And the major reason for the writ is to save a lot of Moors from being on the street, because it's your stuff anyway. And ultimately, as this thing begins to collapse, the ultimate cure for this whole thing in North America and the world anyway is nationalization. Yeah. And they're trying to avoid it, but it's going to come to that regardless. It's not necessarily what you want, what we want, what anybody wants, what's going to be. And so the deal of it is, we're the least politically active people. And so we need some heavyweight tools quick, particularly our people. And it's kind of hard because we haven't been used to this kind of stuff. We've been used to dealing with beliefs. Now we're going to have to deal with knowledge, because that's what's going to save the world. Say it loud, what's going to take.
When I was doing the creek last week, the facilitator happened to hear it on the news, talking about the UN, New York, indicated that the lands would return to the indigenous people.
Yes. Now, if everybody's been paying attention, right, remember we talked about since we were before? Rights of indigenous people. Everybody who has the book? They'll show the book. Come on, this is. Yes. Now, introduce yourself.
Peace, Islam. I'm Ra, Soul, Fire, I'm Mel. Islam. Rights of the indigenous people.
Yes. And we want to expand on this. This is what Obama signed. That's what the Europeans are upset about. We've been telling people this for 25 years. But basically, this is what he signed. And so it'll start getting people to pay attention to what we've been saying so they can stop thinking it's just merely our opinion. And if you listen to some of the talk radio shows like Rush Limbaugh and what's the other guy's name? Yeah. Complain about saying Obama's trying to send the monkeys back home and all that stuff. That's the European position. Yeah.
Well, if they want to be soft and they can't do it here, they got to go home.
And see, the real deal is, that's the point. But it need not be like that. It need not be like that. They need to just act right. Stop it. Yes.
Technically, according to the treaty, we are their friends in commerce.
Yes.
If they would treat us with respect, we could get along. But because they want to be corrupt and act with trickery and debauchery, then now we have to pull out our cards.
This. Remember when we talked before?
Yes.
Put it back sometime.
Yes.
Concept. When you understand who you are and who they are, you understand the law.
Yes.
When you're not clear, you can't understand the law.
You cannot stand on your square. Do not know these things.
And you must be yourself. That's why Paul said, how do we begin to start uplifting the North Americans? By teaching them to be themselves. Why? Because without being yourself in fact and in law, you cannot be claimed to an estate because you are in dishonor of your mothers and your fathers. This is where nationality plays a vital role on the planet. We're not just talking about the process, what's done to protect the rights of people. We're talking about divine law translated into civilization, and that's what that principle is. Honoring your mothers and your fathers that your days may be longer upon the earthland which the Lord thy God allowed. And that's the truth.
Not long ago, I was engaged in a dialogue with a fellow sovereign who said to me that being sovereign and knowing the law had nothing, just didn't have any benefits. There was, what good did it, his exact words was, what good does it do to be sovereign unless I'm in a legal battle or a lawful battle? There's no benefit to it. And I felt sorry for that brother. I truly did, because for him to be sovereign and yet not recognize the benefit.
See, this is what must be understood.
He has his papers.
No, stop. I had a conversation. Of course, we talked last night. I'm sure persons in the room, some of them recognize the conversation I had last night. So I told you before, sitting over there. Make this very clear. Sovereignty cannot be bought, and it cannot be sold. It's not something that can be packaged. Everyone lift up your left arm. Close your wrist. Take these two fingers like this. Feel your pulse. Calm down. Feel that beat of the universe. It's called blood, and the political nature of that is called consanguinity. The descendant nature from your ancient mothers is called your nativity. That's called nationality. Inheritances, and thus the sovereignty of your nativity is in the blood. It's a birthright. Can't be bought. It's unalienable. Can't be transferred to another. Papers don't make it. Your mother did. Once you get that through your brain, you understand why no jolly wrote humanity on the womb of woman on your questionnaire. Because that's the Holy Prayer. Now, what papers did you say he had? Concept.
Yes.
If a person denies nationality and arguing sovereignty, like this, because they go together, which means he lacks something. And 9 times out of 10, he was convinced by someone that you could buy a package and be sovereign. Hold 2 silver dimes, now you got it. Old bar, quit, well, guess what? Don't mean a thing. You ain't got this. You gotta honor your mother. You gotta know it. You gotta declare it.
That brings me to a question. Based on something I was speaking about cargo in terms of, okay, in my lawsuit against the person, the judicial system, my son, I am stating that because by birth, I birthed him, he is my cargo, he is my property, my real property,
Yes.
and he has been stolen or
Where
whatever.
your book come?
Which book?
Right, so this is remember, this is the law that all nations have signed on to. And as you recall, Bush and Boys, those prior to Obama, wouldn't sign it. Neither would Britain. Why? Because they're the two major colonial operators on the planet that are destroying the people and the planet. They're obligated to be members of the United Nations, but they've been the beneficiaries of the fraud that has turned the world upside down. That's why they wouldn't sign it. You understand? This is why the Knights in the Democratic Party, as well as the Republican Party, were undermining Obama. You must understand and start looking at the politics from a totally different point of view than you have been. That's what I want you to do. The argument you made is certainly moral and certainly ethical.
Okay.
Now, let's talk about what their obligation is. Right?
Well, here's the question. Another sovereign told me that it was so far.
Stop saying that.
Okay, another.
Qualify.
Oh, God. All right, another Aboriginal indigenous.
Let me place this at you. Sovereign is not a title. It's almost like it's giving sovereignty a validity within itself. It doesn't stand by itself. There's no such thing as a sovereign that stands by itself without being prerequisite with a nationality or the supreme identity.
Well, then I can't qualify for him.
No, this is what you would say. This is what you would say, because I want you to clear up. Right? You would say, if you're talking nations, it would be Chinese or Manchurian sovereign, or something like Iranian sovereign. There's no, that doesn't stand on its own. It doesn't stand on its own. And I recognize that a lot of people have been using it like that, thinking that it does. Well, guess what? It doesn't. And the reason I'm telling you that, because everybody needs to understand that, because people are throwing that word around loosely and think you can be sovereign. You know, it's a title or designation that does not stand on its own without the support of nationality. I mean, the nationality must be there for the sovereignty to be claimed. The sovereignty does not arrive on its own. Not in the civilized planet. This planet called Earth.
Well, then another war.
No, more is sovereign. But the point of it is, this is the key. And I'm saying this to you because the conversation indicates there's not clarity. And so, if someone wants to say
he calls himself a Moorish sovereign, I have to address that, brother.
I'm not denying that. I'm not even dismissing that. My concern is that your concept. All right. Any civilized person from any nation who's sovereign does not go around wearing a chip on their shoulder talking about sovereignty. They simply declare their nationality. The sovereignty is automatic. For someone to be pushing that out indicates ego, vanity, lack of understanding, boisterousness, and how would you say it? Immature in what the subject matter is. For someone who understands the look of this lunchbox trying to you understand what I'm saying to you? It's like you walking up here and you're saying, Brother Taj, you remember who's talking? I want to prove you my own head. You know, you really think that you do? Maybe you do. Maybe you get the point. And you kind of look you could help him by toning that down. Because I'll tell you, when you go before the rest of the civilized world and you come like that, they're going to look at you like, oh, somebody gave you because it's so naive to present yourself.
He's one of the people who
Yes, I'm not knocking it. You understand?
Yes, I do.
I'm clarifying something.
Yes.
Meaning that don't exercise that practice in front of other civilized people because they won't take you serious.
But my question is, will the courts take me seriously?
Sure.
If I tell them that Justin is my property?
All right, now, don't even go there. Don't even go there.
I've already made him my property through a security agreement, which is not yet on record. So, you understand what you comprehend? It's not on record yet.
Let me say this to you.
Through the agreement, he is now my chattel property.
But not now. He was never not yours. You know, the whole concept, remember this, I want you to know, understand this. This whole concept that you're coming back into, right, is understanding that the fraud never becomes true. You never become a moral. You always are. He never belonged to the state. They only claimed that stuff. When you reclaim your birthright, you're proclaiming it to the world. That's all the purpose that your documents serve. They're not an application. They're not a motion. They are affidavits of fact presenting to the world that you are not to be assumed to be Christian property. And understand, we're not meaning Christianity as far as the spiritual development that people associate with it. It's a political system to Europeans. And when they approach you with Christian, Muslim type presentment, understand, they're never looking at it from a spiritual perspective. They want you to think that. It's always political domination or mind control. Only. You think it's other than that, you're in trouble. Understand? Now, I want you to read. This is rights of indigenous people. Wait, my word.
Pulling all nighters.
And I'm going to come back to you on the issue that you're talking about. Yeah, the concept. Now I want you to read part 2, 6. Read it into the camera, read it loud. Read it as if the children were sitting. You're the teacher.
Part 2, Article 6. Indigenous people have the collective right to live in freedom, peace, and security as distinct people and to full guarantee against genocide or any other act of violence, including the removal of indigenous children from their families and communities under any pretext.
You already have it in your hand. That's the law.
So if a judge tries to say
you don't have to argue.
I don't have to argue with him.
But that's the law. Don't hit them with a moral argument because they're not moral. Don't argue with them on ethics. They're not ethical. Remember this, and we talk about this all the time, right? What is our weakness as far as having breaking habits? We keep forgetting that they are colonists. What else did you expect from a colonist but exploitation? So if you're appealing to their morals, your concepts are wrong.
But if I hit them with law, they can't do anything about it.
Let's back up. No duality said what? The divine going to the nations. All of you who love a free national government, help me in my mission to bring my people back into the constitutional fold of government. Right?
Yes.
And to enforce the Constitution, our Constitution, of the United States of America.
And going to Barack Obama and the Constitution, do you know he's only the business manager, owner, whatever you want to call it? I don't even know if I have the right language for it.
He's CEO.
He's the CEO of the corporation.
There you go.
According to the Constitution.
We are now, we've got to what? Start acting like ourselves. Stop talking about ourselves from a third-party perspective. Know what your rights are and enforce them. So now when you read that, right? Keep this in mind. Article 6 of the Constitution, right? To which they are bound by oath, right? All debts and contracts entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be binding against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. And all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority or in pursuance thereof shall be what? The supreme law of the land. Hit them with the law. You got it. All right. You need to debate the rule with this. Hit them with the law. Remember, keep this in mind. Obligation, obligation, obligation.
Am I taking it right through admiralty?
Let me tell you this.
Is admiralty, you think, the best way or the Constitution?
No. Listen. The admiralty is because they're operating under war powers.
Or for the international?
Yeah, they're operating under the war powers.
Right.
All right. Now, all debts and engagements entered into before the adoption of that Constitution, which means they're bound to this before the Constitution was even adopted. What's your nationality?
What is my nationality? I'm a Moroccan American.
Oh, well then, since when did the law change? Didn't know probably said in the Bible warning, since the Constitution has not changed, the 14th and 15th Amendment is not necessary for the salvation of my people and citizens. At what point are we going to carry out the law and stop letting Europeans get us off track and think we got to go someplace else and claim something that already exists? You get the point?
I do.
Concept.
Got it. Thank you, Ashe.
So they can't make some other law and therefore claim a right that never existed with them. You see? And it's the same principle that the Supreme Court said with 16th Amendment, which is color of law, that the Inquisition revenue servants are using against people. And the Congress said what? The 16th Amendment gave Congress no new taxing powers. Go read the law. That's why I did confused about taxes. You understand? Give them the law. Don't be big with them. Don't make it more arguments don't win in court cases. Keep that in mind. Take emotions, dump them. And remember this. They're always going to try to trick you into going into a fraudulent venue in order to say that you've consented or waived your right. So you need to go into the laws of the seas just because they're acting like honeys?
I figured the way that I
you figured, I don't respect it, you figured what you heard.
The Constitution and the treaties, the
figured what you heard because someone convinced you. No, listen to what I'm saying to you. As you study, and you've seen positions that different people have taken trying to get back to the Republic, mostly Europeans. Now they want the Republic back. And acknowledging that they've been operating under admiralty law, bringing a law of the border to the land.
Yes, that's treason against the government, actually.
The government is the people.
Which is us. We
All
are
right,
the people.
now look, these people who are doing this are called Democrats. Are they called democracy? Huh? Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, what does it establish? A Republican form of government for every state in the Union. So are they government officials? No, not actually. You don't even need to qualify that. Don't need to qualify it.
They're frauds.
They are, write this down.
Title 22, subsection 611 of the Uniform Commercial Code calls them foreign agents because they are foreign agents working in a
when something is foreign and they're introducing foreign law, they're what?
imposters.
Well, that's what your suit is based on. You see? You see? Just common sense.
It's Title 22, Chapter 11, Subchapter 11, and subsection 611 claims them as foreign agents. And a foreign agent is anyone who is acting in the interest of a foreign country in the host, and as a host in another country. So that's them.
So now, what occurs when you agree with a fraudulent venue under the auspices or under the claim or the alleged claim of trying to claim a right that's inalienable? Can an inalienable or unalienable right be converted into a crime or converted into a licensable privilege? Then would you need to go into a venue to claim a right that is yours by birth? Did that judge and those officers of the states take an oath to uphold the Constitution?
They did take an oath.
Is that what they're bound to?
They are bound to the oath, but the moment they took the oath, it became admiralty.
Yes,
The
I'm
oath
saying.
took them to an admiralty law.
Yes, but I'm just saying. Are they bound to that?
Yes.
All right. Now, are you a U.S. citizen? You start looking sideways. Too slow to answer.
I am a citizen of the United States of the Republic of Morocco, the empire, not the.
Well, you should have said that the first time. You should have paused. And that's not the question I asked you. I asked you, are you a U.S. citizen? You should have
No,
said
I'm not.
It's not, sister.
It's all
No, say.
all original people, no matter where they are.
You like this? People all black, Latino, Caribbean, light skin, orange skin, green, you are?
Right, I'm asking that for you. So if you are from somewhere else, say you're from Jamaica.
You're still more.
Yeah, but you want to come on this party.
No, stop. Concept. Now listen. The Moroccan Empire, ancient of Mexico, which is the ancient, true, and divine name of Africa. Of Mexico. Listen, I need you to pay close attention, particularly because you get your concepts right. That's the ancient, true name of Africa. Africa is the modern name, and on the west side, America is the contemporary name.
Okay.
Now, the Moroccan Empire includes northeast, southwest of Mexico, across the Great Atlantis, even into North, Central, and South America, and the Atlantis Islands.
Okay, but if you were here at one time, right? I'm just saying.
You're missing. You're missing. Now, let me bring something to your attention. No, I understand where you're going. I'm trying to get you to start listening, because you're not. And we're trained that way. You must understand it's not an insult. I just gave you the parameters of the Moroccan Empire, and you keep acting like you came someplace else that's not your home.
No, I'm not.
Your conversation says that you're not acknowledging your inherited land. That's a problem.
Okay.
Now, come up here, please. Anybody got a boyfriend?
I do.
So what's up? Come up.
Oh,
And put your Teflon sneaks on and just do a moonwalk right
I'm
over.
Muslim, so I have to have a regular brand. But I have the other one too.
Oh, you got one too? Well, come on, we got one already, sis. Come on.
I think. One of them is top.
Hmm?
Oh, you
Concept. Now, we're on camera and talk to the rest of the family. Now, listen. Before I came over on this side of the street, I walked across that side of the street. It's got all the problem. Was that someplace else on my plan or my parents? All right, now I want you to read this chapter. Oh, wait, hold on. I got you covered. Oh yeah, I got you covered.
So, just to answer your question, if you on this side of Africa, the North, Mexico, it's for me to say that I was deported back over there.
Now,
that was my question.
You would be saying that because you would be going by what is called European psychological displacement.
Okay.
That has nothing to do with truth.
So that was what I understood about
Let's put it this way. Let's put it this way. Is North America Europe?
North America is part of Europe? No.
I want you to get the copy of this film.
Well, this is my first meeting with my mom. My chef's daughter, so it's my first meeting.
I'm sure your mother was straightening you out.
I'm not
You
going
last one.
to where I got to learn.
Come on down. Yeah.
I'm not
Read it, chapter.
I'll get your glasses on. Oh, I hate glasses. Are we going to read it?
Respect. I want you to pay attention to the words, please.
Egypt.
Say it loud because you're in the camera.
Egypt, the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa. 1. The inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient kings from the land of Canaan. 2. Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. 3. His father Ham and his family were second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means demarcation, line of the dominion of Mexico, the true first and divine name of Africa, the dividing of the land between the Father and the Son. 4. The dominion of Cush, northeast and southeast Africa, and northwest and southwest was his father's dominion of Africa. Northwest, 5. In later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. 6. The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit Northwest Africa. They were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan seeking the promise.
Read on. You don't need it to read it.
7. Their dominion and inhabitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa across the Great Atlantis, even unto the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico, and the Atlantis Islands before the great earthquake, which across the Great Atlantic Ocean.
Now stop right there.
Right, so I'm gonna ask you a question.
Now, the Atlantis Islands includes Jamaica, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Includes all of the islands, Moroccan, Dominica, etc., etc. Those are the Atlantis Islands.
Right.
That's Moroccan Empire.
Right.
What's your nationality?
Mine? I'm a Moor.
Well, yes.
But what my question is this, which I was going to
Yeah.
ask you. Okay, like you said, psychological brainwashing about you being back over to Jamaica. Now, how do you get back over here?
We didn't say how do you get back over here. That's not the subject first.
Well, that's what the question I was trying to ask.
That's second to you affirming that you're home.
Okay, right.
Your argument would be wrong. Now, rights of indigenous people, am I correct?
Yes.
Can you bring it up? This. Now, help us sister friend. We're going to share peanut butter sandwiches with you.
He's in his, because it all belongs to us in terms of have his right to travel in the United States. Says that this should not be a bridge. And I understand that, but when you are, even though you're saying that.
Read 2 and read 3. Now, and help her out. And interject if you feel like it. Now,
but you know
we're
that
going to discuss that. Read this.
You to tell me something.
Read this. Read this.
Indigenous people have the right to the full and effective enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedoms recognized in the Charter of the United Nations, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and international human rights law. Indigenous individuals and peoples are free and equal to all other individuals and peoples in dignity and rights, and have the right to be free from any kind of adverse discrimination, in particular that based on their indigenous origin or identity.
Now read it before. Now keep in mind why we're encouraging you to sue and giving you preliminary instructions, changing the way you think, changing your language, preparing you to have your proper arguments when someone counters you or interrupts you or interferes with you with a color of law claiming to be national or international when it is absolutely not.
Okay.
And then look at what they're obligated to, and then understand that Obama signed this, not that they weren't obligated before. Now they're really obligated.
Wow.
Now read number 4, like I told you.
Article 4. Indigenous people have the right to maintain and strengthen their distinct political, economic, social, and cultural characteristics, as well as their distinct political, economic, social, and cultural life of the state.
All right, what's your nationality? Then you have a state, don't you? Wait, you have a state, don't you? Your nationality creates a political state. They're violating the acts of state. They're in violation of national and international law.
Right, so what I'm asking is how would you go about it if you want to create a...
No, I understand what you were asking me. I understood what you were asking me the very first time.
Okay.
What I'm saying to you, until we get your concepts correct, which means we're not here, we're not debating this. If Brother Rick is a customs agent, right? Your argument probably would be weak. If you understood what you just read,
I do understand.
you would tell him, chill out, go get your manager. And then when they start acting like lunch, you just simply call the FBI and you call Secretary of State and you tell them to get them in order. Also, you get their names because you're getting ready to sue them.
Oh, okay. That's I just want to know how would I handle the situation.
This lets you know what your obligations are to your own rights. So before you want to exercise these things, you need to know about them.
Right.
That's why you need to study yourselves. You need to understand what nationality is. You don't just say, if I say what your nationality is, and you say North American. And then I say, well, Give me an idea of actual state, how would you respond if some other national challenges your position? That's a cross jurisdiction. That's a violation of international law.
Okay.
But you need to know that.
Right, and I do,
Now,
but I just wanted to
understand
know
this.
how we would handle it.
Understand this. Listen to what I'm saying to you. Understand this. What's happening here and what's happening around this country, with people beginning to learn about nationality and birthright, is what needs to be in place before you can take the next step to counter them. Meaning the understanding that we're trying to impart to you needs to be a natural part of you, whether you came to this class or not. And when they approach you in any kind of way relative to visas and stuff like that, you would know how to respond. That's why you're here. That's why I'm having you read those things. You need to soak it in your head. If you have a problem, then we will say to you, oh, sister, go ahead, right? Put it in. And not expecting to have a long conversation because your concept will be right. You understand what I'm saying? Because once you understand how to write writs, you already know what their obligations are. Keep this in mind. Obligations, obligations, obligations. You must know what their obligations are. And you must know what your birthrights are. That's why you always say, I need, I want, I desire for my people to know the truth and the divine truth. Learn the truth about your nationality and your birthright, and you'll have the tools to defend against that beast. As a matter of fact, in due time, we're going to dismiss all that crap.
Where can I on the record?
Yes, you can, sir.
Where can I get this?
Oh, Ross and Rod should be here later on. You might have one. Maybe give you an opportunity. We'll be able to get it.
So you're saying that when I go after this situation?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, what you're going to do, you're going to learn what you can. Keep notes, pay attention to every detail. When I'm approaching you, I'm not picking on you. No, listen, giving you a mirror. But I recognize this is training that we all have. Don't pick. You're going to be pushing. Now, when you do, and then you're going to get certain points of law, obligation. And then after a while, like that. Don't worry, will. Now listen. When you go out into the world, unbeknownst to the rest of the civilized world expects you to know these things naturally. It's not even a debate. It's only a debate when it comes to what are called Negro, Black, colored, Puerto Ricans, and stuff like that, because Christians have held the information back from us because they've held us to servitude. You understand? Only to that degree is this information not familiar with us. But by birthright, by civil law, by civilization principle, and by international law, you're held to this standard whether you know it or not. And if you don't know it, they will dismiss you. Now, when they dismiss you, don't think it's prejudice. It's just that they would recognize that you are in what is known as a minority status. It means you have the mentality of a minor. And there's no need for them to have an intelligent conversation with you because you're a boy or girl. This is why a lot of people refer to our people as boys and girls. It's not meant to insult you, it is the truth.
Would you say, according to the Black's Law Dictionary, that minority is equivalent to civilist fortress and law?
No. It's conditional. This is what the condition is. Condition would be and with boardship tenures, they don't have to account, because if you're listed as a minority, it is the same to be listed as a minor. And in law, remember, when it comes to your unalienable rights and your right to the land, and thus your right to operating in the reason of a state,
Let me qualify this with state.
Yes.
This is Article 4, United States Constitution. United States Constitution. And anyone watching it? It says, Article 4 describes the relationship between the states and the federal government amongst the states. For instance, it requires states to give full faith and credit to the public acts, records, and court proceedings of other states. Congress is permitted to regulate the manner in which proof of such acts, records, or proceedings may be admitted. The Privileges and Immunities Clause prohibits state government from discriminating against citizens of other states in favor of resident citizens. It also establishes extradition between the states, as well as laying down a legal basis for freedom of movement and travel amongst them.
So it must be understood
Constitution.
that you're a political state. When you don't think of yourself as a political state, you're assumed to be a ward of the state.
And if I were crafting the lawsuit, I would use Article 4 to get whatever I want from Jamaica back to this side.
Yeah,
Yes.
talk to each other. Now listen, what's going to be taking place? As a matter of fact, it is well that you have that dilemma, because you can be part of the cure. Because as you learn, as you learn, you're going to recognize that a lot of what you need is going to come from you. It will never come from European origin. Well, then you want it. But there's some others. They're part of the problem.
Thank you.
Oh, well, sis, make sure you get with all the other sisters that are studying, because they'll give you keys. Navigate all the sisters. Y'all get together when you can. Because when the women get this together, this thing is over. So we want to make sure that if we can, that you really get the concepts correct. So if I'm redundant, please be patient with me, because we're breaking spells. And understand, remember this, this is key. Everybody knows this, and that's a little bit being general, but understand this really. People around the planet understand this conversation like a drop of a hat. As a matter of fact, they're doing it. It's like saying, it's like it's discussing people who have to. How many things? You go through the routine. Now, someone who just knows I'm going to fall strong. Because it's taken for granted, understand this concept of civilization is known by all the nations on the planet. Their citizens, from the 3rd grade, they get this. On up through college, even in poor countries. You understand? Surprisingly, Jamaica, I'm surprised that even though it's under British colonial powers, they're not as in park as we are here. You understand what I'm saying? They have a little bit more open-mindedness as to world events than they do in the North Territory. In other words, we have more political access to certain things, but as far as international scene is concerned, the Moors of the Northgate are pretty much stagnant as far as fundamental international law knowledge. You understand what I'm saying to you? I would expect a little bit more from you in that area. All right? But understand the rest of the world expects all of this from us more. And it would make us uncomfortable if we knew what it was.
Most of the other nations in the world do not respect us. We're not standing in our proper status.
This is because we dishonor our mothers and fathers. We don't see it that way because we're looking at from a training perspective that we're suffering from prejudice, racism, and we're arguing that the rest of the world looking at us like we don't want anything. But it's not really true. We don't know ourselves. But we're bound to that irregardless. See, certain things that we need to understand. There's certain things that you're held to whether you know them or not. Ignorance of laws, in other words, no matter what you do, how you cut it, how you smooth it over, this, you're not excused. You understand what I'm saying to you? And I know, based on the way this information has been misrepresented over the decades, that a lot of people misunderstand this movement or looking at it as merely a belief system. And that's due to infiltrators who have taken seats of power and have deliberately misrepresented, making people think it's religion. It's birthright. It's an inherited bloodline, consanguine principle. Religion, as far as worship is concerned, can come with it, but in fact has nothing at all to do with it whatsoever. If you was an atheist, it's still more. It's your birthright. It's your inherited right. You don't have to believe no kind of religion. These rights are still yours. You understand what I'm saying? And if you let someone make you think that it's something else, they're a liar and an enemy to the cause. However, it's in your interest to claim it. You understand what I'm saying? But it's in your interest to claim your religion because your religion gives you or secures certain rights for you in the political arena. And you need to learn how to use them also. You understand? Now, when it comes to what religion actually is, now, other science, that's a different matter. You understand what I'm saying? Make that distinction, because understand when other people are dealing with you, these things are taken for granted, not discussed. But when they see that you're handicapped in these areas, they'll start stepping off from you. You understand what I'm saying? And don't think that they're being prejudiced. They're really recognizing that you have mental. You know, now our people don't look at it that way, but understand the rest of the civilized world does, because this is a mental issue. We're under mental servitude. We just think that we're all right. You know, it's like a person who's, didn't take Ritalin in the morning. They're okay. You know, like, they're fine. The rest of the world is looking at it like, that ain't my cousin, that thing. Really. And we don't know that, but honestly, that's how others look at you. You'd be surprised when you talk to other nationals, when they know that you know, and you get in a straight conversation, they'll admit that and tell you that's how they look at these people. But they can't have the conversation with us because we like to fight. And we know Jesus will. And they don't. I mean, that's the attitude that our people have here. And the rest of the world looks at it like we're crazy. But they're not going to discuss it with us. They just are careful. If we don't get rid of them, we're going to hurt it real quick. And they know it. We can fight. They know that too. And that's the whole truth.
Brother, I'm sorry. I just want to add one more thing to the class for the camera. Anyone who's listening.
I love this. You know what?
I've gone from a whimpering little something to they call me fire now. Honestly, this is the beginning of it all. United States Constitution is what they love. They, the Europeans, they love the United States Constitution. You learn it and you know it, you can stand on it, you are fighting fire with fire. Do not underestimate the United States Constitution. It is so relative in my life. It took me from being a whimpering little mom to fight.
Right on. And this is what must be understood. Keep in mind with that Constitution, and look at this. Remember when we were just talking a little while ago, and I put this up here? Fire. Fire. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Remember I put that up there? Oh, the floor's open. What do you get out of that when we were conversing and I put that up there? That Constitution is binding before and against the United States. But they come from that, didn't it? You see the point? You understand. And the Constitution for the United States. They're done like that to convolute people because they know one thing, that you do like this and people get confused because they don't teach principles. You understand? Now, remember how we always talk. It's important to understand that the United States is a political metaphor. Once you understand that, you begin to make distinctions, discernments, right? Mexico is the United States of America. Brazil is the United States of America. Colombia is the United States of America. Look at their official titles. You know, if here in the North, they just say the United States. Or they just use the continent name, say America. Where is the national name? Doesn't exist, does it? Because the people are asleep. See the point? Now, that Constitution is binding against the United States. Well, if it's binding against them, who they're bound to? Those whose indention agreements were made before the adoption. What's the nationality? North American. When was the Treaty of Peace and Friendship ratified? 1787. And then the first draft of what? The Constitution was made. 1788. And finally adopted 1789, and then they brought the Europeans officially into the constitutional fold of government with the Army General named George Washington. And the Republic was established under John Hanson 8 years before. Do you understand?
It is a contract.
That's, now you've got it. Now you
The United
understand.
States Constitution is a contract between the Moors, who granted the United States
There
permission
you go.
to conduct commerce.
Now you
defense,
understand.
And the United States incorporated the United States of America.
Now you understand. We the people
Yes.
of the United States. Now pull out the fiat note dollar. Pull out the fiat note dollar. Sister Special you. Pull out the fiat note dollar. Here is your card. Sit between man and pull out dollar. What you call it dollar?
This concept of understanding that all of this land is more.
It's your inherited birthright. Now, look at this. Look at this. Hold that question, and I'm going to answer your question most completely. You take a note out too. Take out.
Here's a dollar.
Come here, sister. Tell mine skates on. I want you on camera. Because this is what's going to happen. And you know what? When people have issues and problems, and they start getting it, it makes the best teachers. You know why? Because pain is a good teacher. You're in pain. You know, Anyway. That's what it is.
I'm sorry. That was funny.
Don't hire my opinion, please. Stop it. See? Now look on there, right? Now you see what? A great seal pyramid, right? Right? And then you see an eagle, right? Or aquila, right? With the wings spread. And a shield on the breastplate, right? And you see 13 arrows, 13 arrows, 13 berries, 13 leaves,
Okay.
13 government units right there. You ain't bought it yet? 13 stars above the head of that bird, and they formulate hex alpha. Then you see that great seal pyramid. Now look underneath here. It says the great seal, doesn't it? Look all down the bottom. You don't even know that. Come on, let's not. Don't act like you got context. No. Yeah, underneath there. It says the great seal, doesn't it? Then the other one says of the United States, doesn't it? So now we're going to pay attention. Of is a preposition, right? Which means a substantive connector, doesn't it? Parts of speech, pay attention. Remember, you're going to teach us. Right? Now, so that means that these two seals are going to break the mystery. Let's break the mystery, right? These two seals are one. Whoa! It says O-N-E right in the middle, big letters. Boy, I figured that out. Huh? Oh, now you beginning to understand why we have our faith. All right. Now, this is important. This is very important. Now,
he is the last of his kind. All that remains of a once powerful nation. Some think he is a myth. Some believe he is the chosen one, who will bring balance to a world at war.